So one evening I was travelling home from work on the Northern Line, and a young gentleman got on the train about Euston or King's Cross, I think it was, and he sat diagonally opposite me and he started staring at me. The young man had a vape on him and started vaping and started blowing the smoke in my direction. He started staring at me quite aggressively while he's doing this. This was obviously to provoke a reaction from me.
The next station is Chalk Farm.
I continued to ignore him, but his vaping and his staring persisted and became more aggressive. People moved away from around us because the vaping was quite sickly, and as a young lady who was sitting opposite me vacated her seat, the young man in question moved directly opposite me to move closer to me, and then continued to vape further in my direction, more aggressively and staring at me at the same time. The train then pulled into one of the stations and he indicated for me to get off the train. I indicated back for him to get off the train by a wave of my hands and asked him what his problem was.
Why you got a problem? Why you looking at me?
He looked at me and said, "You're my problem." And I said, "I've done nothing to you. You don't know me." He goes, "Your problem is your vaping." And he goes, "I don't give an SHIT." And I said, "I know you don't give that because you're very inconsiderate." And then he goes and points at me and goes, "You kill Muslims." I went, "Excuse me?" He goes, "Your religion kills Muslims." I told him that what he's saying is anti-Semitic, but he persisted to say that. And I said, "You don't know me. You've got no idea what's going on in my head." And he then says, "That thing on your head, your religion, that means you kill Muslims." I was wearing my kippah. I had done nothing to him.
I haven't done anything to you. You've got an issue with me. I've got no problem with you. I've done a lot. I've sat here, done nothing. I'm wearing hats, that's the thing, yeah? So what you're doing is called antisemitism. You're anti-Semitic. Sorry? I've done nothing. I sat here on the tube. What you're doing is anti-Semitic. You've got no idea what's going on in my head.
You wearing that hat?
We're wearing a hat. This is my religion. You're anti-Semitic.
Your religion supports killing Muslims.
No.
But he was accusing me of killing Muslims in a pure anti-Semitic incident. I challenged him again on this. The situation was futile, and I was worried the situation would escalate. So when the train got into the next station, I decided to get off the train and move down to another carriage. I looked on the platform to see if there's any guards or anything. There wasn't anyone available. So I continued on the train to Golders Green in the next carriage. When I got to Golders Green, I noticed that he was still in the rear carriage, second from last carriage. And at that point, I went forward to the front of the train and alerted the driver that there was an anti-Semitic incident on the train. The driver was very helpful. He stopped the train and he called the station manager to come and assist. The station manager came over. I informed the station manager of what had happened, and I showed him some of the video footage to be able to help identify the gentleman involved. And the driver also noticed on the cameras from the carriages that he was still on the train. Unfortunately, another train came in to the opposite platform, and during the commotion of trying to identify him or get him to deboard the train, he managed to get on one of the trains and leave the station. At that point, I reported the whole incident to the station manager, gave them full details, and then I called the British Transport Police to report the incident. And I've got to say, the British Transport Police were very supportive in in the reporting of the incident and also the subsequent investigations afterwards. So from a personal perspective, I felt that it was completely unacceptable for a person who displays any religious symbol, whether it's a kippah for the Jewish, a turban, a hijab, or anything else that identifies them as in their religion, and they get persecuted or ridiculed or attacked for that on the public transport. I personally can handle myself, and obviously stood up to this guy, but I felt that what would be the situation if it was a young girl wearing a Magen David, or an elderly gentleman who couldn't handle themselves, who was attacked or abused in this way. So therefore I felt it was very important to publicise what happened, to let people know what is going on in London at the moment and the anti-Semitism that people are facing. At that point I contacted the Campaign Against Antisemitism, because I know the campaign quite well, and I thought they could help publicise the event and raise awareness of what is going on. Because I had very clear footage of the incident, I submitted that to the police as the first port of call, but then also I provided the footage to the Campaign Against Antisemitism, and I asked them to run the footage on their media channels, on Instagram, X, Twitter, etc., Facebook, to help raise awareness. One thing that I didn't want to do, because I had my phone quite low down, you could see my reflection in the glass opposite, and I asked Campaign Against Antisemitism to protect my identity during the incident, because it was going out on social media. And Campaign Against Antisemitism were very helpful in protecting my identity and looking after my needs within that respect. We also took advice, unfortunately, because the guy looked potentially under 18, therefore we had to blur his face out as well. So since the incident has happened, I've had quite a bit of support from the British Transport Police in phoning me and keeping me updated. They've taken a formal statement, and they feel that the incident passed quite a serious threshold with regards to an incident of racial abuse. As a result of that, they have gained permission to launch a media appeal to identify the individual involved, and they did a press release of the individual, a still of the individual, and that was also passed to the Campaign Against Antisemitism, and that has been publicised on the media channels from Campaign Against Antisemitism, and also local press have run the article from the British Transport Police. As a Jewish person in London, my feelings at the moment are different from how they were before October the 7th. I've always displayed my Judaism. I've never been ashamed of my Judaism, and I won't hide my Judaism. But unfortunately, things are different, and you are far more aware of what's going on, and you're a lot more cautious around where you go, whether I wear a cap or wear my kippah openly, or I hide my Judaism. I don't want to. I don't feel anyone should have to hide their religion. We're a multicultural society, that everyone should be free to practice their religion without fear. But I think that has changed, unfortunately.